Hey guys, Frank from Acacia Reptiles. Today we're going to talk about something slightly controversial, and that is supplementation. This will not be an exciting video with lots of cool cutaways and awesome montages and awesome edits. You just get to look at me and we get to talk about supplements. So what are supplements? The basis of a supplement is to supplement a gap in the nutrition of an animal or a human. We all take supplements. Maybe some of you do, some of you don't. That's up to you. We also all have various different levels of activity. Some of us are athletic, some of us have illnesses, and we take supplementation to help balance our lives and feel better and live longer and, whatever you take them for. Reptiles are no different. I remember a time when I was a teenager and I used to work for a guy who had a massive reptile collection, and it was common practice to take calcium, vitamin powder, dump 50-50 into a bag, a ton of it, throw a bunch of crickets in, shake them up so they're neon white covered crickets, and dump them into all the animals every single day. He had a ton of reptiles. They bred. They grew, some of them a little faster than I would think is normal. And, I don't know the long-term health. I was only working there for probably 2 or 3 years. I don't know how long his animals lived. I don't know what the repercussions of that was. But as many of you may have seen out there in the social media world and on the web, there's been an increase of animals with problems, right? In terms of like over-calcification of internal organs, growths, obesity, things of that nature. Things that, as humans, I think we can kind of relate to, right? Cancer, obesity, heart disease, kidney problems. All of those are typically caused by some sort of nutritional and or, how we live, right? And a nutritional impact. So I wanted to make this video really quick because I want people to stop over supplementing their animals, right? We have to step back, understand where the nutrition plays into husbandry, and as we advance as a hobby and as we advance as breeders and keepers, we want to make sure the information going out there to the general public, to other breeders and other reptile keepers, isn't based on marketing, right? I sell supplements, don't get me wrong, but I'm telling people who are buying animals from me or buying supplements from me, when they ask, how often do you supplement? How often do you recommend? Now, sure, you could do what the package says, but also remember that package really needs you to buy another package and another package and another package religiously for them to make money. And the same goes for these larger corporations that own all of these supplement companies and what have you. So that's something to keep in mind, right? So we have to understand the differences between trying to supplement to fill a gap and to supplement to overcome a, bad reptile husbandry and keeping. So high level, not going to get into any specific species, but we're going to use an Uromastyx as an example because it's what I work with. And I think you can apply what I'm going to say to just about any reptile for the most part that requires supplementation. So Uromastyx, right? They live out in a very harsh desert type environment. Most species do. They have access to a rather wide variety. I mean, scientific studies have showed the gut content being very diverse in certain species, but they could also be very different depending on the time of year, the precipitation that year, what's available. So there's a lot of factors, right? And I think those factors come back to us. We have the obligation as reptile keepers to provide our animals with a good variety of food items, different types of, say for Uromastyx, different types of greens, different types of grasses, different types of flowers, both dried and fresh, just to make sure that the animals are getting different types of water content, fiber, different vitamins, minerals, nutrients. Those are all things that are very important and should come predominantly from the food that you're feeding your reptile. Not go get a little shaker and dump it on there and because you really don't know how much you're putting on. You're just dusting crickets or dusting veggies and then just giving it to your animal, and you felt like you've done your job. You could easily be hurting your reptile by overcalcifying or giving too much vitamin A, for instance, or too much, too many vitamins. And a lot of those vitamins and minerals can be excreted out, but over time, if it's constant, it can start accumulating in different parts and could be detrimental to your animal's health, just like with a human. Vitamin A, I bring that up because that's a great example. There's lots of documented studies of how animals and humans it's toxic if at a high level. So ensuring that it comes from a natural source as opposed to a, straight just taking vitamin A. So little things like that. My point is, an Uromastyx in the wild doesn't have calcium all over their food all the time. Now, the foods they may eat might have higher levels of calcium depending on what species of plant they're eating, or again, it's wild, it's fresh, they're eating it. The nutritional content might be higher than, say, something you buy from the store, or that's why it's a great idea to grow your own food whenever possible in the right temperature. But at the end of the day, they're not just dousing any food item out in nature with vitamins and minerals constantly. So utilize nutrition as your first kind of defense to ensure that your animals are getting good solid mineral and vitamin intake. Whether you want to gut load insects or you want to make sure that you're providing a good variety of vegetables for, say, an Uromastyx, that's your first step. Try to avoid things that maybe your animal doesn't have a large amount of access to, right? A great example for Uromastyx is fruit. I see people all the time feeding blueberries and peas and, carrots and things of that nature to their Uromastyx, and maybe as like a once in a great wild treat, but like they don't have access to giant luscious berries in the wild or tubers like carrots that are diced up, cooked, and given to them. So try not to mimic those type of things. Mimic things like the different types of grasses and different types of greens. Not to get off on a tangent, but don't just feed animals spring mix every day and put a bunch of supplements and powders on it and that should do it. I wouldn't want that. Your animal probably doesn't want that either. So don't do that. There's tons of marketing out there. There's tons of supplements out there. They make you feel like you got to put it on there. I watch all these big YouTubers who just like show their food prep and they just chop up a bunch of stuff, great variety, looks awesome, and they could just stop and feed that to the reptile, but they don't. They take whatever they're selling or they douse it and then they shake more on this and shake some of this and put some of that on it and then mix it all up and then go get some tortoise chow and powder that up and put that on it on top of it, which is also full of vitamins and minerals, and then they feed it to their animal. That is like the equivalent of us eating a salad with just 400 different types of vitamins and minerals on it. They're eating it because they're hungry and they need to eat, but they don't need all of that. They don't even know how much you're giving them. So you wouldn't do that. Don't do it to your reptile. Use your brain. Reptiles that are talking predominantly, we'll say lizards, but high quality UVB, natural sunlight whenever possible. They produce their own D3. They can then absorb the calcium that you feed them, but they don't need calcium every single feeding. They don't need vitamins every single feeding. For some of my animals, I might only give calcium to once every couple of weeks. Breeding females, growing babies, maybe a couple times a week. But outside of that, I'm not going crazy with this stuff. I personally use the Arcadia Earth Pro series. It's a lot more natural. It's not crushed up oyster shells or calcium carbonate like that. They use some mineral clays, which kind of more replicates something you'd see out in the wild, right? Possibly. And I don't ever use D3. I only use straight calcium with some magnesium in it. So never had an animal in the 25 plus years I've been keeping reptiles. I've never had an animal with metabolic bone disease. I've never had animals have problem breeding, living long, healthy lives, shedding normally. all the things that all of that marketing for big companies will make you feel like you're doing wrong and that you need to do ASAP. Don't believe it. Just do your research, think for yourself, and make sure your animals are getting the right balance. Don't go overboard. More is not always better. Natural does not always mean better. So just make sure you take the time to do the research. There's tons of YouTubers, there's tons of articles, there's tons of great care sheets out there that do a great job of really explaining this in more in depth. There's podcasts out there, so if you haven't subscribed to those, definitely get onto those. Listen, grow, evolve your keeping habits. Always be willing to learn. Be humble enough that there's others out there who have learned and have tried things. Share knowledge, and we can only get better, guys. So sorry, boring video, but I think it's needed, and I think people need to hear it, and you can't be afraid of it, but stop dousing everything in calcium and vitamins and thinking your animals are going to be better for it. And yeah, hopefully we'll talk about some more interesting things. It's winter time here, so as you can see, it's 5 o'clock and everyone's already out for the night. So nothing exciting happening over here at Acacia right now. In another month or so, these guys will start waking up, and hopefully we'll have some more fun videos. But in the meantime, we'll talk more about this. So thanks for joining me. And if you have any ideas, comments, reach out. Love to talk to you guys, and love to share info. Like and subscribe. I know that sounds corny and it's at the end of the video, so it's a little late. So if you're still here and you're still listening, please help me out. Give a subscription, give me a like, and share this with your friends. All right, guys. Thanks. See ya.